Good morning to all my students. Okay, let us get introduced to the subject called as Enterprise Information System. Okay, it's a very easy and interesting chapter. That's what is the first and foremost thing which I want to say to all of my students. The thing is, I will try to make this subject much more interesting by giving a practical cases. We'll discuss the entire subject by taking few practical cases. So what will happen once we discuss in such a fashion, so this to read the subject will automatically it will become very easy for you to read the subject. That's what the point here is. So before getting started into the subject, I want all of you to delete few things from your mind. What? Stating that EIS is a tough subject, EIS is a boring subject. No, it's a easy subject, provided you start thinking that in a logical sense, you try to understand this subject in a practical sense, then this subject will become much more easier for you. Now, before getting introduced, the objective of this session is what? Let us try to understand. The objective of the session, today I am not getting into the subject. We are trying to have a outer view of what is enterprise information system, what are all the things which are we trying to read in this following thing, and what is my methodology and how we are going to proceed in this chapter. That's what is the thing which you are trying to understand today. Now the thing is, once we end up with every chapter, so we are having basically only 5 chapters out there. Once we end up with each and every chapter, so what I will do, I will initially, when we discuss the chapter, I will be giving a practical illustrations, practical cases, then we'll try to cover the entire chapter. At the end of the chapter, what I will do, I'll be giving you few questions and I will explain you how you should write in from the examination point of view. How do you present that from the examination point of view? See, always don't by heart. Try to understand the concept, try to apply the concept. So if you do that, done with your EIS. It's very easy, and again I'm reminding you, it's very easy, very interesting. So I will just put the entire sessions in the practical manner. So let us get introduced into the subject called as Enterprise Information System. Now I can break this into 3 different things. Enterprise Information System. What is the meaning of enterprise? First let us know. Okay, because whenever you are trying to learn a new subject, we need to know what is that. If I know what is that, then only I can easily understand the background which is involved there. Okay, so that's the reason today what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to explain, give an introduction to this EIS chapter, and along with this I will introduce all the chapters which you are going to cover as a part of your enterprise information system. Now EIS starts with what? Enterprise. What is the meaning of enterprise? Enterprise can be defined in n different number of ways. Enterprise, simply one definition if I want to say, I can call enterprise as an undertaking. Enterprise as an undertaking. What is the meaning of undertaking? I can simply call undertaking as an organization. Organization. So enterprise is nothing but an undertaking, and undertaking is nothing but something called as your organization. That's what is the basic. Now when we call that as an undertaking, when we call that as an organization, means what? An organization will be having several departments such as what? Production, sales, marketing, purchase, finance, HR, information technology. Any company, you look into any company, the basic setup is what? And in some cases there will be separate, in some cases there will be separate department called as logistics. We'll come to that. When we go in depth into the system, we'll discuss the logistics as a part of something called as a supply chain management, that we'll discuss it. Okay, but for the time being, any sort of organization will be having several departments, such as I explained, will be having production, purchase, sales, marketing, HR, finance and account. These are all the basic departments which any sort of undertakings will be having. Now each and every undertaking has its own responsibilities. So let us consider production. The responsibility of production is what? To do the production. The responsibility of sales department is what? To create a demand. If imagine production department is not connected with production department is not connected with sales department, then what will happen? Production department don't know how many units they to produce. They will keep on producing. They will keep on producing the goods, so that what will happen? The closing stock of finished goods will pile up. The stock of finished goods will pile up. So ultimately, whenever we are calling that as an enterprise, as different departments are there, there is always some sort of integration. There is always some sort of integration required among various departments. That integration is what? System. Now we got an understanding of enterprise. Now let us try to understand something called as the system. What is the meaning of system? Let us try to understand. What does the system mean? The system, say simple example, human body is a system. Your human body consists of several subsystems such as brain, heart, lungs, etc., etc. So each and every part is a subsystem. Now if there is no interconnection between your heart and the brain, if there is no interconnection between your spinal cord and your brain, so ultimately the body cannot function. So there is an interconnection. So once all the subsystems are connected together, then only the organization will work. So organization is a system. The entire broader view, organization is a system. In that system, you are having several sort of subsystems. Each and every subsystem is having its own function. Heart will have its own function, brain will have its own function, liver will have its own function. So now all the function should be coordinated to one specific object. What is that objective? Organization's object. So if all these are connected and functioning for one objective, then only the organization will survive. Heart, brain, etc., etc., all these things are having different functions. But ultimately, if one organ stops functioning, the human body will stop functioning. So ultimately, the objectives of the subsystems may be different, but I need to connect all these things to bring the going of the organization. That's what is something called as the system. Now system can be defined as what? System can be defined as several departments. System can be defined as several departments integrated. What is the meaning of integrating? Integrated, we are calling that as several departments integrated, joining together. When I join together, how I will be joining? There should be some sort of process, there should be some sort of procedures, there should be some sort of control. So all these things comes as a part of your system. Okay, now we know the meaning of something called as enterprise, we know the meaning of something called as system. See, in fact, enterprise consists of a system. Enterprise is a broader view, organization. That organization is having some sort of system. See, again, what is the meaning of system? It contains several departments. I need to integrate all the departments. To integrate these departments, I need to set up some sort of order. I need to set up some sort of standards. Those standards, those process, those instructions, those technical specifications, entire things are said to be called as the system. That's it. So system is what? Departments are there. Integration should be done. How you are integrating? By putting some sort of controls, by putting some sort of broader framework, that will be said to be called as the system. That's it. So that's what is something called as the system. Okay. Now what is the meaning of information? What is the meaning of information? This information plays a very vital role in your enterprise information system. Say, as I had said, coordination, sales department, production department. If there is no coordination between sales department, production department, there is no flow of information from sales department to production department that the demand is this, you should produce this. Ultimately, what will happen? The production department will keep on producing the goods to ensure that they uses the capacity of the machine to the extent, optimum capacity. Thereby, what will happen? Recovery of overheads will be more. See, the more the asset is used, The more the machine is used, the more the goods you produce, the more the capacity used, recovery of overheads will be more. Recovery of overheads will be more. So production department will keep on focusing only on that. Their objective is what? Recover more overheads, absorb, do the more production. So your rate of recovery will automatically come down. That's what is the ultimate objective of the production department. They will do that only. If they have an information from the sales department that only demand is this, don't produce more, then what will happen? They won't produce. They will produce only to the extent of the demand. So that's what is the vital role which the information is going to play across your information system. Now, information. Let us try to, as I said, I will purely take this entire sessions in a logical and practical manner. Okay. Now, what is the meaning of information? Before getting into the concept of information, we need to understand something called as a difference between data, difference between information. That's what is most important. Let me give you a small example. Yeah, let us take this example here. Now, in this case, what is happening? Say we have been taken several sort of sales data. Say nearly, if you look into, there is lot of sales data. Nearly the sales data we are having 10,000 units of sales data is there. Okay, 10,000 records of sales data for the entire financial year 2021 is there. We are having the complete sales data for this entire tenure. Now, in this, we have been provided with the various customers, various product, various state, various quantity, various rate, and the amount of the amount received from the so-and-so customer. Now, this, if I give to the management, if I provide this to the management, whether management can take any sort of decision? Obviously no, because what the management will do, there are total 99,995 records and the turnover is showing as 992 lakhs rupees as turnover. What the management will do by taking this information? The management can't do anything by taking this information. So what we'll call this? This is something called as data. I will call that as what? Data. I will call that as data. The data has to be processed. So information system, what we are trying to do? We are trying to process the data. Once I process the data into a meaningful manner, I will call that as what? Information. So once I process the data into a meaningful manner, we'll call that as a information. Now, let us go to the previous example what we have discussed. So let us see the previous example. Now, this, as I said, is a data. This is purely called as what? Data. Now, what I need to do? I need to convert this data into a meaningful manner. So once I convert this into a meaningful manner, I can call that as what? I can call that as a information. Based upon that information, what I can do? I can take, the management can take some sort of decision. Say, being a management accountant, the management accountant should convert the data into some sort of information. This information the management accountant should provide to the management. Then the management will take some sort of decisions based upon the information. Now, let us try to convert this information, convert this data into information. Then let us see what sort of meaningful analysis we can do out of this information. Because always the information is meant for some sort of analysis. We are having a separate chapter. We'll discuss that. So once we discuss the definition of your EIS, then I will drill down the subject and will try to discuss what are the different chapters we are having, how that is interconnected, and how we are going to proceed further, right? Now let us try to see, how do I convert this into information? So once I convert this into information, what sort of decisions I can construct, right? So now this is the information of a company of various of sales made to various customers during a financial year. So for the entire 12 months, the sales information is there. So now let us see, there are total what? There is a total 995 records out there. Now, if you being a management accountant give this information to the company, whether the company can take any sort of decision? No, it's a meaningless data to the management. So now, being a management accountant, what you need to do? Process this data. You need to process this data into an meaningful information which is useful for the management to take some sort of decisions by the management. That's what is the ultimate objective. Processing of the information is very vital. So your entire subject, the maximum part of your subject is depending upon the processing of your information. Now, for example, let me take this. Say suppose I want to process this information. I want to process this information into a meaningful. I want to process this data into a meaningful source of information. Let us see how. Say I want to know which state is giving me how much percentage of revenue. Let us find out that. Because I know my total revenue to be what? I know my total revenue. If I do the total, I know my total revenue is going to be this. Let us see what is your total revenue. My total revenue is what? My total revenue is 992 lakhs. 992 lakhs is your total revenue. Now I want to know which state is giving me more revenue, so that I can focus much more on the state and I can try to increase my revenue share from that. So that's what is my decision making which I want to do. So what I will do, I will try to process this information in terms of state, in terms of zone. If I call that as AP as zone 1, Karnataka as zone 2, Kerala as zone 3 and Tamil Nadu as zone 4, I want to know how much revenue is being generated. Now, how much revenue is being generated? Let us try to see here. You are trying to get, okay, 945, 459 lakhs, 93 lakhs, 204 lakhs, 234 lakhs. Now let us put that as a part of your percentage. Now, being a management accountant, what you are doing? You are trying to do some sort of analysis. You are trying to process your data into information and you are trying to do some sort of analysis. So you being a management accountant should present the management with some sort of report. Say, even being a management accountant, if you say that AP is this, Karnataka is this, so and so, the management does not have much time to calculate the percentage. So you should process, you should prepare a summary. That summary should be given to the management. That's what is something called as management information system. We'll come into that. Now, here, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to ascertain what? I'm trying to ascertain the percentage. Now, from Andhra Pradesh state alone, you are getting what? You are getting nearly 46% of revenue you are generating from what? You are generating from AP. And you are generating 9% of revenue from where? Karnataka. And you are generating 21% from Kerala. And you are generating what? 24% from Tamil Nadu. That means maximum share of revenue you are getting from AP. So I had to focus more on AP. And from Karnataka, my share is less. I don't know the reasons. Now, if I give this to the management, then the management will do some sort of, the management will ask the management accountant to do some sort of analysis. What product is not being sold? Or all the product sales is less in Karnataka. So that sort of analysis is the management accountant has to do now. So now what the management will do? Management accountant himself wants to know the product wise also. I know AP is contributing 46%. And now I'm interested which product in AP is giving me the major share, which product is giving lesser share, so that I can focus much more on the product, so my total turnover will increase. Now, what I am trying to calculate here? Now I am trying to process this data into a product-wise information, product-wise turnover statement. Now, let us see how we can process this. Okay. Now I'm trying to process the same information based upon the product wise. Now let us see. Okay. Now what? I want to know the product wise. I want to calculate this information product wise. and we are also having different segment. We are having basically what, 4 types of products. You are having 3 types rather. I am having 3 types of products, which is nothing but your furniture segment, office supply segment, technological segment. So these are the 3 segments you are having. Now I want to know the state-wise information. Which state is giving me revenue? Which state is giving me revenue from which segment? So that's what I need to calculate. Now my total turnover was what, 992 lakhs. The total revenue which you are generating from the furniture segment is what? Let us see. Now if I try to see like that, now which segment gives me the more revenue? That what I need to calculate. That means what, my furniture segment, what my furniture segment is doing, of my total revenue, my furniture segment alone is giving me 31.4%. What? Furniture business is giving you 31%. You are getting the 31% revenue from your furniture segment alone. So your furniture business is giving you that much amount of revenue. Then what about your other segment? What about my office supplies? My office supplies is giving me the greatest revenue, 48%. So furniture business is giving only 31. Your office supplies is giving you 31% of revenue you are getting from your office segment. Then what about your technology? Your technology is giving you 21% only. So the maximum share you are getting from what? You are getting from something called as for office supplies. So thereby the management can understand that I am lagging in the technological aspect, I am lagging in the furniture aspect, so I can do something to boost up my sales in what? In technology, and I can try to boost up my sales in what? In furniture business. Now if you understand the other scenario, now let us try to do some sort of other analysis. Now if I try to do the same thing, let us try to process this data in some other manner. Okay, then what? Then the management is interested to find out only the product. So the management accountant is giving only a product segment. I am trying to prepare only a product segment and I want to submit this information to the management. Now let us see what we are going to do. Now I just want to know which product is giving what. Okay, so that's what is the case. We know this percentage already, we have calculated. Now what I am trying to do, we are trying is the furniture business giving. What is the percentage of furniture? What is the percentage of office supplies? What is the percentage of revenue which you are getting from technology? From various states we need to calculate. Means what I will do here, simply I will consider the furniture. What is the furniture? This is the amount of furniture which you are getting. From the total, see, my total revenue is 992 lakhs. Of my total revenue, AP furniture business is giving me only 15%. Only 15%. I am getting only 15% from my furniture business. Like that, if I try to calculate of my total revenue, Andhra Pradesh office supplies percentage of your total revenue is nothing but what? Is nothing but 22%. That means in Andhra Pradesh, you are getting the major amount of portion from where? From office supplies. But whereas if you look into this particular analysis, even your analysis is saying what? Overall, all the states are generating a revenue of 48. Of the 48, AP is generating what? 22%. That's what is the meaning for that. Then, what is the technological business deriving? The technological business in AP is giving a revenue of what? Is giving a revenue of only 9%. So, only 9% you are getting. Now, what is this total? This total is nothing but what? 46%. What is 46%? AP share of the entire revenue, AP is getting a share of 46. What is the breakup of this 46? Furniture business is giving 15%, office supplies is giving 22%, technological business is giving 9%. So that's what is the total revenue share which you are getting from AP. So based upon this, what I can understand, technological business is not much doing well. I am getting 46% revenue from AP. What is the major? Office supply is the major, but technological wise we are not doing much stronger. Try to analyze the reasons, try to focus on that. So what will happen? The management can increase its sales even in the technological aspect. So once you process this data into some meaningful fashion, the management can take some sort of decision. Same case, even if you take here, you'll be getting the same thing. So now let us see what will happen for the Kerala furniture business. So now Kerala furniture business, what it is doing, it is getting a percentage of 29%. That means Karnataka, if you observe, Karnataka is getting 3%. Karnataka is getting only 3% of the revenue. Now if you try to see other segments such as Karnataka office supplies, what is the office supplies there? The percentage of office supplies is nothing but this 4%. So 4% is the revenue which is being contributed from the office supplies. Now technological wise, if you look into the technological wise, ultimately what is happening? So technological wise, I can consider Karnataka is giving me what? This percent, 2%. So 3%, 4%, 2%. Now what about your remaining other two states? Kerala, if I consider furniture business, I am getting what? Furniture business, you are getting this much amount of percentage, 6%. You are getting only 6% of revenue from particular thing. Then you are getting what? Office supplies. If you look into office supplies, okay, we focus on something called as our office supplies. The office supplies is giving nearly 10%. 10% is the revenue share which office supplies is generating. Then what about the technological business in Karnataka? Sorry, in Kerala. So it says what? It is trying to generate you 4% of the revenue, like that and so on. So you can also calculate for Tamil Nadu and I can also calculate the total. Let us do that, then we can come to some sort of conclusions. So Tamil Nadu business, what is happening? In Tamil Nadu, furniture business is what? E5 divided by F8. Yeah. So this gives you a revenue share of 7% from the furniture business. Then office supplies is almost same, 11%. Then what? Technological wise, it is giving 5%. It is slightly more than what? Slightly more than Kerala. Now if I focus on the total aspect, on the total, say total, what was your revenue segment? Already we have calculated this. Total revenue from the furniture business is going to be 31%. So what is the breakup of this 31%? This is nothing but 15, 3, 8, 6, 7. I can have a complete breakup. Then the total revenue share which you are getting from your supplies, office supplies, is what? Is this. Okay, this is nothing but the total revenue percentage which the management is getting. Like the 21% is the total revenue which you are getting from the technological segment. Now even the management can drill down in the furniture business which sub-product is doing well, which sub-product is not doing well. So based upon this, that the management can take a decision. So what the management can do? The management can try to see that technological business in AP is increasing, furniture business in AP is increasing. Like that, none of the segments in Karnataka are doing well. Maybe if the management incur some sort of publicity expenses, maybe if the management do some sort of promotional expenses, the management sales can increase. So what we have done here, we have processed the data into information. We have processed the data into information. Based upon that, management can take some sort of decisions. Now if we get into something called as your system something called as information. So now we know the basic overview, enterprise information system. Now, as I said, in this subject, your major focus will be on the information, and the major focus will be on your information system. Now, let me give a overview of what are the contents of this chapter, of this subject. So we are having few chapters such as what? Now, if I go in depth into information, we are having lot of components of your information. Components of your information. What is the meaning of components of your information? To see, we have seen an example of processing your information. To process my information, what I had to have? The components of information. I need to have something called as input. Say there is a keyboard. I am inputting some sort of information. Once the information is entered, what will happen? Once the information is entered, I need to process. I need to process this information. Data you are entering. Input is nothing but your data. You are processing your data into your information. And that information I need to give in terms something called as my output. That's what is something called as your component of your information, right? So you need to have something called as your components of your information. Now, for this you are inputting something, you are processing something, you are getting as an output something. For this, you require few things. What you require? You need to have something called as your hardware. Hardware you need to have. You need to have something called as your software. Without a hardware, I cannot input. Without a software, I cannot operate. So we will discuss what is hardware, what is software, all these sort of things we should understand when we are going through this. And not only that, the most important part in this, I need to know, I need to have a proper control. I need to have a proper control. What sort of controls? If you input wrong, you will process wrong. Once you input wrong, ultimately the process is going to be wrong, and ultimately the output is going to be wrong. You are taking some sort of information based upon the output. The management will take key decisions based on output. The decisions will go wrong if your input is wrong. So always I need to have a proper control when you are inputting. I need to have a proper control when I am processing. I need to have a proper control when I am generating some sort of output. Say when I process 2 plus 2, the output should be what? 4. If I am getting something else, my process is somewhere wrong. That I need to check. I need to check my process, whatever way which I am doing is right, so that my output will be right. Then I need to have a control. Who should input? Only the authorized person should input. Unauthorized person should not input. If an authorized person is allowed to do input, ultimately he will do something wrong. Thereby your processing is wrong. Thereby your output is wrong. So authorized person should input, and there should be a proper way to input. All these things are something called as our input control. When you are processing also, I should have some sort of control. I need to follow a procedure. Even where, who should generate the output, to whom the output should be given, how the output should be, all these things are something called as our controls. So that's what is basically our third chapter, which is nothing but something called as our information system. Information system, components and control. Information system, components and control. So in this thing, what we are trying to understand, we are trying to understand what are the hardwares which are required to do some sort of input, what are the softwares which will convert that in, which will process that input, and what are the hardware which will give me some sort of output, and what are the controls which I should execute, and in what information, what is the environment, what is the environment in which you are processing your input. Okay, what is the environment, and what are the environmental controls, what are the network controls, what are the system controls, all sort of controls which we'll be discussing. So this chapter is basically about information, information system, components of information, and exercising some sort of control over information. Very, very, very important, because information is a vital asset for an organization. If your information is gone, your business is gone. So that what information is to be considered as a one of the most valuable important asset of the company. So that is the reason each and everything, processing of the information, introducing information, output of the information, everything we need to execute a proper control. Not only that, once the information is processed, what I will do, I will store the entire information as a part of data. I will store the entire information as a part of data. Suppose if I go back to the previous example, this is nothing but my sales happening in one financial year. So what I am doing, I am storing this. I am storing in a database. Not only this year, as per our Companies Act, as per our Income Tax Act, you need to maintain the books of accounts for a period of either say 5 years, 7 years or 10 years. That depends upon the requirement. So you need to maintain. So how I will maintain? For maintaining, I should have something called as a database. We are calling this as a what? Something called as database. So you are storing your data in a database. Whenever you store your data in a database, I need to get my data back, retrieve my data back. So what are the controls which I need to execute in your database? See, all the things I will discuss purely in a practical manner. Okay, we'll be purely discussing the entire topics in a practical scenario. Now, so that's what is the outer content of your chapter number 3. That's what is nothing but your chapter 3 focusing about. Now, then what? Then in this subject called as your enterprise information system, your major focus will be on something called as system. Okay, system. We know what is the meaning of system. So there are a lot of aspects which you need to consider in that concept called as a system. Now, say suppose, say we know the meaning of enterprise, we know the meaning of a system. See what we have discussed? We have discussed your system consists of several departments. It consists of several departments such as production, several departments such as sales and marketing, several departments such as HR, several departments such as finance and accounts, several departments such as purchase, several departments such as your information technology. Now, as I said, there should be some sort of connection between all the departments. If there is no connection between all the departments, the functioning of the system cannot happen. If there is no connection between your brain and the heart cannot pump the blood and heart cannot circulate the blood to your brain. So then ultimately the functioning of the brain will stop. So there should be always an interconnection. This is a separate department. 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 But there should be some sort of connection. That's what is something called as your enterprise resource planning, ERP. This will be discussed in a separate chapter, ERP. That's what is a part of your system. Enterprise resource planning. Enterprise is nothing but your overall organization. Resource is nothing but what are the resources? The resource could be what? Your man, material, money, machine, whatever it is. That's what is called as a resource. Planning is nothing but how these resources are organized, how these resources are used across your entire organization. That's what is something called as your ERP. Okay, each and every department will be having a module: production module, sales module, manpower module, finance and accounts module, purchase module. All these things will be integrated. Who will take care of that integration? Information technological department will take care of the integration between all the particular department. That's what is one thing which you are trying to understand as a part of your system. Now, whenever you are having a system, this system will be for what? This system will be placed for the business. The system will be placed for the business because the enterprise is doing a business. Whenever we call that as an enterprise and the enterprise is doing some sort of business, ultimately what will happen? Whenever you are doing some sort of business, the business cannot function without a process. Now, every business will be having a set of process. Now, say suppose banking business. If I take an example of banking business, the banking is doing a business. Now, That business is having a process. Say what? What is the activities of a bank? Getting money from the public, giving loans to the public. That's what is the general business of a bank. Say the process is what? The customers will come to the bank, they will deposit the money in the bank. So a person called as teller will get this money from the customer, will credit this, will deposit that to the corresponding account. That's what is the process. Now every process will require some sort of automation. What is the meaning of automation? Automation means replacing the human with some sort of machine is something called as automation. Reducing the manual involvement, reducing the manual intervention with the machine intervention is something called as automation. Now what the banking sector has done? Introduce something called as cash deposit machine. Now the teller, being a human, may do some sort of error. Now what you will do, you will go to the bank, simply deposit that money in the CDM, cash deposit machine. Ultimately what the CDM will do, you will enter and the CDM will count the notes automatically, and once you enter your account number, the CDM will automatically deposit that in the account. So thereby the manpower is not required. The role of the manpower, the role which manpower is doing, now a system is doing, a machine is doing. So the machine has replaced the manpower. Do I need to pay the salary to the machine? Obviously no. My overhead cost got reduced. My overhead cost got reduced. See, this enterprise information system, you should try to understand this from various angles. From your costing angle, you need to understand. Now, this automation has done what? Reduce my overheads. I need not pay salary. My fixed cost got reduced. So I need not pay salary to this CDM. What I'll be having, purely the depreciation I'll be having. So I will be claiming only the depreciation, only that will be my fixed cost. But I need not incur any sort of salary which earlier I used to pay to the teller. So that's what is the reduction in cost which the automation will do. Not only reduction in cost. The automation not only results in reduction of your cost. What will happen? Reduction of time. Earlier, one customer you used to take 5 minutes minimum. Okay, minimum 5 minutes. Now the same thing is done by a machine in hardly 2 minutes. Thereby 3 minutes has been saved. Instead of earlier looking for 10 customers, now you can focus on multiple customers. So reduction of cost, reduction of time, these are the factors which you are having as a case of your automation. Not only that, let me take an example of a manufacturing company. What the manufacturing company will do? The manufacturing company is going to do some sort of manufacture. So once the goods are manufactured, what the manufacturing company will do? Do a sort of sale. Do you think there is no scope of automation in the manufacturing company? Obviously there is a lot of scope of automation. Say for example, now to understand the concept of automation, I need to know the business process. These all are our subsequent chapters. I will go in depth into that at a later stage. Today I'm just giving you a brief introduction, brief overview of how this we are going to study in our subsequent chapters. Now, say business process. What is the business process? First I need to get a sale order. I got an order from a customer. That's what is something called a sale order. As soon as sale order is there, what the sales department should do? Check with the production department whether finished goods is there, whether finished goods is not there, how much time it will take. So they need to check with the production department. If production department says the goods are ready, the finished goods is ready, sales department can issue an invoice to the customer. They can dispatch the goods to the customer. If production department says the goods are not ready, then production department should check whether the raw material is readily available. If production department says raw material is readily available, we can do the production in 4 or 5 days. Then based upon this, the sales department will intimate to the customer that the goods will be dispatched by so and so date. Then what the production department will do? The production department will check for the raw material. If raw material is not available, they should check with the purchase department. Now what the purchase department should say? The purchase department should place an order. They should get the goods from the supplier. So now once the goods are received by the purchase department, the goods will be given to the production department. Based upon this, the sale will happen. So this is the entire process. Now here there is a lots and lots of manual intervention is there. Sales department checking with the production department checking with the purchase department placing an order with the supplying department. So now if I try to do the automation, if I try to have a proper software, if I try to have a proper ERP, sales team can know by looking into the system. The sales department can know how many stock they are having. They can know, they themselves can know how many units of raw material is available. They themselves can know what is the time within which the production department can finish off the goods. So they will raise a request automatically through the ERP. The request will come to the production department. So immediately the production department will start working on that. So based upon that, alert will be sent to the purchase department. If requirement is there, shortage of raw material is there, purchase department will immediately do the procurement. So ultimately what is happening? Time is reduced, communication gap between sales department, production department, reaction time between production department and the purchase department. So everything is reduced. So now as you are automating your process, there create some sort of accountability. There create some sort of responsibility. So ultimately, as this alert has been gone to the production department, immediately the alert will be going to the production department head. Ultimately, an alert will be going to the company head also. The CFO or the CEO also will be getting an alert. So they will have some sort of responsibility that they should react immediately. So that creates some sort of response. Thereby, automation is creating some sort of cost reduction. Automation is increasing some sort of responsibility. Automation is in reducing the time. Thereby, your productivity can increase. That's what is the ultimate objective. Not only that. So once you go to the automation, there is always also involved some sort of risk. There is also involved some sort of risk because there is a system you are placing. You can always break the system. You had created a system. You can always break the system. You can always break the system. So to prevent you that breaking the system is something called as a risk. Breaking the system is something called as risk. So what will happen? To prevent the risk, you should always have some sort of controls. Application controls, general controls, all these things. This is nothing but your second chapter. Your second chapter is nothing but your automated business process. We'll call that as ABP. That's what is nothing but your second chapter speaking about. We had discussed your third chapter. Now coming to the system. Okay, in the system, if we go back to our previous page where we have discussed something called as the system, what we have seen? We have seen that system comprises of several subsystems. Each subsystems will be connected with the help of an ERP. Like that, our next chapter, which is nothing but your fourth chapter, you are focusing on something called as the finance and accounts. The chapter name is what? Finance and accounting system. In this chapter called as the finance and accounting system, okay, there will be trying to understand several things such as finance and account system is nothing but your chapter number 4. This chapter we will be again discussing on something called as data. In this we'll be discussing on something called as you are having something called as master data, non-master data. So lot of stuffs are there. Master data and non-master data. It's very simple. Master data is something called as our permanent and non-master data is something called as our temporary. So anything which is temporary will be called as my master data. Anything which is something permanent called as your master data. So temporary is non-master, permanent is your master. So that's what is something. Then what I need to do, we know very well the data has to be processed. The data has to be processed. Once you enter this into a system, this data will be processed. Then you will be preparing something called as our financial statements. Again, if we go back to your basic definition of your accounts. Accounts is nothing but recording of your transaction, generalizing of your transaction, classification of your transaction, summarizing your transaction, reporting to the users, to the stakeholders. That's what is something called as for accounts. Here you are doing that. You are recording, you are generalizing. Once the journal entries are passed, that is being reflected as a part of your ledgers. Then the ledgers are incorporate as a part of your trial balance. Then with the help of your trial balance, you are trying to prepare something called as per financial statement. So with these financial statements, what I will do? I will report. The reporting, generally the company is having a separate department. Once the reports are done, there is a separate department in the company which is called as MIS department, Management Information System. So this what is the role of a management accountant. The person who do this activity is someone called as a management accountant. So the management will whatever information required by the management, you are setting a system so that the data is converted into the information which is required by the management to take some sort of decision making. That's what is something called as the role of MIS. So you are having a separate topic called as MIS. There will be discussing management information system. Then we will be understanding something called as data analytics. So once you do some sort of data analysis, so that's what, if you go, once you finish off your CA, you will be entering into a company as a role of something called as financial planning and analysis. This is the role. That's what, see, once you enter into a role of a management accountant into a company, you'll be doing this sort of analytics. That's what is something called as what, data analytics. So you are doing something called as analysis. That's what is something called as what, data analytics. That's what is the role and task which is performed by a department in an organization called as financial planning and analysis. We'll discuss entire thing in detail. We'll take a few examples. We'll take a few information of a company. We'll try to process and we'll try to see in this what will happen. Along with this, we'll be having something called as, see, whenever you are having some system, financial accounting system is a part of your subsystem. So whenever you are calling as a system, you are operating in an environment. Whenever you are operating in an environment, there is always some sort of risk attachment. So in this chapter, we'll be trying to analyze what are the risks which are attached, and to prevent the risk, what are the sort of controls which I should execute. Okay, we'll take an example of an industry. We'll try to see what is the information which are existing in that industry. In that industry, for the financial and accounting system, what are the risks which are attached? What the organization should establish some sort of controls so that the risk can be eliminated. That's what is nothing but your second chapter. This is nothing but purely your second chapter. Second chapter, you are focusing on finance and accounts. There you are trying to understand all this sort of stuff. How do you process this? And most probably reporting. This is very important. I will purely explain this concept with an example. What is XBRL? How do you prepare your XBRL statements? And what are the compliances which you need to have when you do this sort of reporting? That's what is something called as the second chapter. Now, as a part of your system, okay, now the other thing is what? With the development, now till now what we have discussed something called as our enterprise, we have discussed something called as information, we have discussed something called as system. Now your other chapter is focusing on the system, which is something called as our core banking system. So in this chapter, we are purely focusing only on the banking system. What is the banking system? How the present banking system is operating? What we can do to do some sort of automation in the banking system? That's what is something called as chapter number 5. There is one more chapter called as your e-commerce. E-commerce. This is purely based upon the technology. See, earlier e-commerce business was not there. With the introduction of technology, e-commerce businesses came into existence. Now, due to the enhancement of technology, the e-commerce business was much more increased. So that's what is something called as our e-commerce. That's what is our other chapter, chapter number 4, which we'll be discussing. We'll take an example of Amazon. We'll take an example of Flipkart. We'll try to discuss practical scenarios about Amazon, how the e-commerce business of Amazon is operating, how the e-commerce business of Flipkart is operating, how the e-commerce business of what is that? Big Basket. Yeah, Big Basket. So all these things, how the e-commerce business are operating. So my intention is, if we go practical scenario, the subject will become easy. It will be easy for you to remember. It will be easy for you to write the examination paper. So that's what is the outer coverage. That's what is the topics which you are going to discuss in our coming sessions. And again, this subject is very interesting. This subject is very easy, and this subject is very scoring. Don't be under a scenario that EIS is a tough subject, EIS is a dry subject, EIS is not a scoring subject. Okay, so if we go in a practical manner, this subject will become easy for you. And at the end of each chapter, I'll be explaining you how should you write the answers from the examination point of view. Okay, so let us catch up in the next session. So next session, what I will do, I will start with, I will not be going in the order of your ICA. Your ICA, the first chapter is what? First chapter is nothing but your business process automation. Second chapter is something called as our financial accounting system. Third chapter is something called as our information system component and controls. And fourth is nothing but something called as our, I guess, e-commerce. And last chapter is something called as our core banking system. So I will start with something called as our information. Third chapter. I'll be starting with your third chapter. Information system, components and control, because we had understood very well regarding the information. So I just want to start with the information system and its components and risk control, right? So we'll start in the next session with your third chapter.